Hey everyone, my name's Kaden Kurkula, and today I'm going to be doing an analysis of Chinese Buddhist art. Um, Specifically, I will be looking at Emperor Qinglong as the Bodhisattva Manjushri, a powerful Buddhist artwork from the 18th century. My goal is to show how this portrait is not just religious, but also an international blend of politics, identity, and artistic style. We'll look at the historical context, break down the iconography and stylistic choices, and then compare it with three other Buddhist artworks from earlier periods to show that how the tradition evolved over time. As we go through, I'll point out how King Long uses religious imagery to reinforce his political power and create personal sacred identity. Introducing the artwork. This painting comes from the second half of the 18th century, during the Qing dynasty. It shows Emperor Qinglong portrayed as a Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. This is not just a devotional painting. It was created by highly trained court artists to visually support Qinglong's political goals. The emperor used art like this strategically to connect himself to Buddhist sacred authority, making viewers see him as not only a ruler, but also a spiritually enlightened one. You can notice the intricate details of the robes, the glowing halo, and the carefully painted facial features. Each element was deliberate. Now, a bit of historical and cultural context. To understand why King Long would want to be painted as a bodhisattva, we have to look at the political situation of the Qing dynasty. The emperor ruled over a multi-ethnic population: Tibetans, Mongols, Han Chinese, and many others. Tibetan Buddhism was particularly influential among Mongolian and Tibetan elites, who believed that their political leaders were incarnations of enlightened beings. By appearing as a Manjushri, King Long aligned himself with this tradition, presenting himself as both a wise ruler and a spiritually enlightened one. This portrait was really a political statement disguised as a religious one. In other words, he wasn't showing devotion, he was using Buddhist imagery to strengthen his claim to power. The painting uses classic Buddhist symbols to reinforce the divine role. He wears the robes as a bodhisattva, sits on a lotus throne, and is surrounded by a glowing halo, all of which signal sacred authority. The attributes of Manjushri, visually communicating, I rule with the enlightened wisdom of a bodhisattva. Notice how even the smallest details, from the folds of the robe to the facial expression, were carefully designed to convey his authority and sanctity. Now on to some stylistic elements. Stylistically, this portrait is fascinating because it blends multiple artistic traditions. Tibetan Buddhist style, with its bright colors, symmetric layout, and emphasis on sacred symbolism. Chinese court painting, delicate brushwork, idealized facial features, emphasis on realism and refinement. And European techniques, shading and depth, learned from Jesuit painters like Giuseppe Castellone, who created these paintings, creating a sense of three-dimensionality. So even the style of painting reflects King Long's diverse empire and his engagement with different cultures. This makes the portrait not only a religious statement, but also a display of artistic sophistication and cultural reach. Now on to my first comparison. This is the fifth Dalai Lama. Portrait emphasizes both spiritual and political authority. This style is richly detailed and symbolic, highlighting his role as both a religious and temporal ruler. While the Dalai Lama's image conveys the authority of a theocratic leader, King Long's portrait merges imperial power with Buddhist divinity to assert his unique individualized sacred identity. In both cases, we see how portraiture can evaluate leader through religion, but King Long takes it further by combining imperial authority with religious imagery in one highly personalized work. Not to mention that the fifth Dalai Lama is connected through his political assertion with other countries, sorry. My next comparison would be King Ashoka's pillars. These pillars display inscriptions with carved lines that communicate moral and religious authority to the public. Their style is minimalist and symbolic, focusing on Dharma rather than personal likeness. While Ashoka's pillars serve a broad, empire-wide purpose, King Long's portrait has a different aim, creating a sacred political identity for a single person. It's personalized rather than broadly symbolic. You can see the contrast clearly. Ashoka communicates ideals to the empire, whereas King Long communicates his own divine legitimacy. Finally, I would like to compare this with the Waterland ritual painting. This was painted in 1454, and it was a part of a set in huge Buddhist ceremonies known as Waterland rituals. These paintings are crowded with deities and spirits that were used to guide souls during salvation rituals. Their style is bright, detailed, and hierarchical. While the ritual paintings serve as collective religious functions, King Long's portrait serves as an entirely different purpose, creating a sacred political identity for a single person. It's individualized rather than cosmological. Notice how King Long's image isolates the figure and makes him the center of attention, unlike the ritual paintings that focus on the collective. Across all these works, we see core Buddhist symbols that stay consistent. Halos, lotus themes, serene expressions, and idealized forms. But the meaning shifts and depends on context. In King Long's portrait, it's political and authority, similar to the Dalai Lama, who is political. This demonstrates how Buddhist visual language is extremely adaptable. We can also see recurring themes. Rulers using sacred imagery to reinforce power, whether through empire-wide symbols like Ashoka's pillars, the Dalai Lama's portraits, or the personalized authority of King Long. In conclusion, Emperor King Long as the Bodhisattva Manjushri represents the fusion of art, politics, and religion in the Qing Empire. Its symbolism claims spiritual legitimacy. Its style reflects China's global artistic influences, and when compared with earlier Buddhist works, it shows how Buddhist art evolves while carrying core iconography forward. Overall, it reveals how rulers use Buddhist images not only for faith, but also for power, identity, and control. By comparing King Long with Ashoka, the fifth Dalai Lama, and the Waterland ritual paintings, we can see both continuity and innovation in Buddhist visual culture across centuries. Thank you.